1 second.
Good evening, delegates. How are we doing? Yeah. My name is Luke Davis, and I will be your Master of Ceremonies for the evening. First up, I would like to invite Melissa Logan to come forward for a presentation from the Blue Ridge Assembly.
Thank you. It's a delight to be here, and YMCA Blue Ridge Assembly has just been honored to host y'all all week, and I'm just grateful to partner with the YMCA Youth Conference on National Affairs. So Sam Adams, thank you for your leadership with the Y of Montgomery. We appreciate it. So we believe that everyone deserves a mountaintop experience. Have you had one this week? Yeah? Good. The way we help everyone have a mountaintop experience is through our annual campaign, and that's supported by our partner Ys, many of your Ys back home, our board of directors, our staff, conference alumni, even of National Affairs, even staff alumni support the annual fund. And so tonight, it's my privilege to present National Affairs a grant check for $14,000. To you?
Yes.
Well, and there you go. So, congratulations.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Up next, I would like to invite David John for the remarks and outstanding proposals.
Sorry, guys. Oops. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. From edible cutlery to felines for felons, you, the 2016 Conference on National Affairs delegates, have once again displayed your capacity for proposing forward-thinking, unique, and innovative ideas. Your hard work in preparing them was apparent, and we, the ones who reviewed them, learned a lot from all of you. To anyone who questions the vision and the passion of this generation, my response is this: come to Blue Ridge during this special week and just listen. Before I announce the recipients of the 2016 Outstanding Proposal Awards, I want to thank the other volunteers who took the time to read 617 proposals. The committee carefully reviewed each proposal on the following criteria: national, international importance, evidence of author research, feasibility, preparation and presentation, and originality. Sound familiar? And no, we did not sit there and go, 1, 2, 3. It's now time to present this year's awards. When I call your name, please come forward to receive your certificate and remain standing at the front of the chamber. I would ask everyone to please hold all your applause until the recipients have arrived at the front. Spirit fingers, of course, are always appreciated. So we will begin with the first recipient. It would be proposal number 275, establish a federal interstate water quantity regulation and trading program. Margaret Walker from Wisconsin. And these are in no order, by the way. The second recipient is proposal number 73, to reinstate a modern version of the Public Works Administration. Jake Parsons from South Carolina. The third outstanding proposal is proposal number 483, Urban Schools of America and Mental Health Services Connection Program, Felicia Flores from Delaware. The fourth outstanding proposal, proposal number 163, a proposal to fund a federal vertical farming initiative, Nicholas Hitzman from Michigan. The fifth outstanding proposal is proposal number 412, a practical Farm Bill Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program reform, Simon Cooper from Tennessee. Next is proposal number 299, instituting a program to provide maternity care packages to all expectant or adoptive parents, Adam Sarousis from New Jersey. Next is proposal number 464, places members of Congress on the Veterans Administration healthcare system, Owen Voutsinas Close from New York. Next is proposal number 302, to decrease the prevalence of child sex trafficking in America, Felicia Murmer from New Jersey. Next is proposal number 481, preventing the use of the United States as a tax haven, Thomas Kitson from Delaware. Next is proposal number 348, require all churches and church-affiliated organizations to file the 990 form annual tax return disclosing annual income, expenditures, and assets, Natasha Collier from California. Ladies and gentlemen, your 2016 Outstanding Proposal recipients.
Well-deserved delegates. It is now my honor to invite to the stage Bob McGahey to present the Paul Grist Award.
So Riley says we should sing our happy song. Maya says, we don't have a happy song. Riley says, well, we must have a happy song. Maya says, we will never have a happy song. To which Riley responds, not with that attitude we want. As you can tell, I'm filling a little bit of time to get the things on the stage here. Less than 10 years after the building, Eureka Hall, was built, and then known as Lee Hall, a young man from Atlanta, Georgia, was sitting on the steps with a major decision to be made about his life. He had two choices. He was offered a contract to play professional baseball, and the other choice was the offer of a job to be the physical education director of the YMCA in Selma, Alabama. Prayerful consideration led him to take the job at the Y instead of feathering his nest professionally playing baseball for a lot of money. Paul Grist stayed there his entire career. Not too many years after he was there in that job, he was elevated to the job of the director of the YMCA and literally raised half of that community. He also coached basketball at the local high school. He was the instigator of the idea that Alabama should have a youth in government program. He observed the Georgia program. Coming back from Atlanta, stopped in Montgomery, Alabama, and told then a young Bill Chandler, who was a 22-year-old program director, we're going to start that in Alabama and you're going to direct it. After his retirement, he came back to Blue Ridge and spent his retired years every summer as a living example of the Blue Ridge spirit. And some say that spirit still wanders around on the second floor over there in that building. But his would be the first face you would see as you got off of a bus or out of a car, with a handshake and a hug welcoming you back to the mountain. And a lot of his time was spent with the college staff that worked there every summer, inspiring and motivating them. The honors that he received not only were honorary doctors from the University of Alabama, there's a state park named after him, there's a camp named after him, the YMCA in Selma is named after him. And because of the kind of man that he was, character was exemplary, heart was bigger than all outdoors. Not only did he do things right, he did the right things. And there was never a question about it. So an award was established in his name to be presented to an adult at one of the several major conferences, the FCA, Blue Ridge Leader School, Christian Values Conference, and this conference. This conference presented the very first Paul Grist Award. And I had the pleasure of presenting that. You see, in 1964, when I was just beginning as a 2-year-old starting to work for the Y, I was a prodigy, obviously. But I had the opportunity to meet him and spend time with him. He came to help with a program that we were trying to do in Moultrie, Georgia. And he became a lifelong friend up until he passed away. So I had the honor of presenting that very first award, and it's been very special for me to have that opportunity to make this announcement tonight. Sam Adams is going to let you know who our winner is this year, the adult that serves this conference. And as Sam comes up, I'm going to ask all the former winners of this award, recipients, whatever conference you may have received it at, to come down front, stand so this group can see the caliber of folks that have won this award in the past. So if all the past Grist Award winners would please come down front. And Sam will come and make the presentation.
As you can see, as Bob said, these are the living examples that we can see today of the kind of person that Paul Grist was. And it's proud for me to serve as conference director with these adults and many others who come to this mountain, give of their time, and they put service above self in all that they do. This year's recipient personifies service above self, and he has given service in lots of different ways to this conference and to other areas of the YMCA. Serving as a delegate, serving as a presiding officer, serving as a YMCA staff member and state director, and a volunteer who continues to give back and give back and give back. He has served this conference as a presiding officer, advisor for the past several years, even though he started his national affairs career in 1994, he continues to come back and serve. Please help me recognize from Minnesota, Mr. Chris Rasnan. Come say a few words to us.
All right. Well, thank you. I'll be very brief. It is just extremely humbling to be in the company of such great people in front of me. So many of my mentors and people that I've looked up to my whole life. The reason I still come here, the reason we all still come here is you. It is humbling to still be part of this conference, to see the imagination, the innovation, the compassion that you approach the topics of the world. It matters so much now, as you all know, and I hope that you never lose that. And thank you so much. I appreciate it. Thanks.
Please help me welcome Ashley Colea to present the William C. Chandler Scholarship for Christian Leadership.
I'm such a sucker for that last part. I hope that you all have the honor to work with people who inspire you, just like what you saw up here. I think also that I have maybe the very best job at this conference in that I get to be on a committee that roams around collecting inspiring stories about you from the people who love you the most, which also might make it the creepiest job at the conference. This is the William C. Chandler Scholarship for Christian Leadership, Chandler being the founding director of this conference, and the very first award being the result of one gift that then grew into the result of advisors, conference adults recognizing a need for a larger gift to recognize students who are exemplary. I want to thank the committee that worked with me because we try to be quiet and watch you all throughout the week and talk to the advisors that you work with. And it is a joyful job to do, but it is also very, very difficult. The person who receives this award may often not be the star of the debate. This person may not be the face of his or her delegation. In fact, it is much more likely that this person is the heart of your delegation. This is the person who seeks to help others first without ever asking, "Who are you?" I have noticed this year that there has been a lot of tension here in this conference, as in the rest of the country, as in the rest of the world. There is a lot of tension. There are a lot of people that feel excluded. There are a lot of people that feel marginalized. There are a lot of people who feel unheard or unseen. Which makes it very interesting to me then that this year we had 3 times the number of Chandler nominees than we've had in the 7 years that I've worked on this committee. I think that perhaps it is because when some of us feel unheard, we yell louder. Others of us, though, see that some feel unheard or unseen and get to work on passing out megaphones. This year, we have 2 delegates whose advisors do not nominate students every year for this award. And in fact, it was very clear to me early on that this year was different. Never have I seen a more impassioned plea to advocate for these delegates than I did this year on behalf of the 2 recipients of the Chandler Scholarship this year. I would like to let you all hear from those words. Our first recipient is somebody who has been described as someone who leads projects to lend support to marginalized individuals, consistently advocates for the less secure and less vocal students in the delegation. Maybe you've been one of those. This is a person who has helped keep youth and government alive at their school. Maybe one of you has benefited from that work. This is a person who, through great personal struggle, quietly and deliberately took up the role of both big brother and co-parent in his household. So, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to award our first Chandler Scholarship to Cameron Cabrera from Massachusetts. He's going to stay and hang out. Next, our second recipient of this award is somebody who has been described as a person who looks for the best in every situation and in every person as her way of being. Maybe she's seen the best in you. This is a person who has faced her own struggles, and just because she had struggles in her life, it did not mean that her commitment to giving others amazing experiences in youth and government had to falter. She continued her leadership roles and doubled her efforts to recruit new students. Maybe she recruited you. This is a person that comes from an area where religion runs as deep as in many parts of the country, but maybe it's talked about a bit less, to avoid an imposition of our beliefs onto others. This is a person who gives witness in a way that breaks traditional reserve and honors and supports the belief of others. Maybe she has honored or supported your beliefs. As with Cameron, this is a person who, when I spoke with her advisor, it was incredibly, incredibly wonderful to watch how very difficult it was for this advisor to even come up with the words to say about this delegate. So strong were this team's feelings about the deserving nature of this person's character. And it is my great honor to announce that the second recipient of the Chandler Scholarship is Miss Anna Lee Jones from Minnesota. Anna Lee Blake and Cameron Kubera will be the recipients of, will each be the recipients of $2,000 scholarships to help them toward their goals. Thank you all for your service to others.
The next awards we have to present go to some exceptional delegates. These delegates are exceptional for several reasons, but one of them I think you'll love the most. They help us relive this moment, this one here, and all of the ones we've had for the past week, time and time and time again, for several weeks to come. Please help me welcome Amy Dennis to present the Media Awards.
So I am Amy Dennis, and I have had the honor of serving as the media director this year. The 17 media delegates have worked day in and day out on making sure that every aspect of the conference is documented in the Blue Ridge Journal. We had an outstanding following on social media through live streaming the opening ceremonies on Facebook, not to mention our following on Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat, the blog, and of course our daily Ridge reports on YouTube. This all wouldn't have been possible without our media editor-in-chief, Michelle Chung from the state of Massachusetts. Thank you. I am so proud of the great work produced by this team. Their enthusiasm for media is great, and the way they worked together as a whole to ensure that the job got done was phenomenal. At this time, I would like to recognize all of the media delegates. If they would please stand, and let's give them a round of applause. And now I would like to recognize the outstanding media delegate who is chosen by the other media delegates. This person exemplified servant leadership throughout their willingness to take on any project. This, paired with their passion for videography and great attitude, made him an asset to our team. The outstanding media delegate for the 2016 Conference on National Affairs is J.P. Fleming from the Model UN delegation.
Next up, it is my honor to introduce, again, Sam Adams, our conference director, to announce the premier delegations.
Thank you. All right. Premier delegations were started to recognize hard work for our delegation for preparing and to give delegations something to aspire to in their preparation and their execution of this conference. The criteria for premier delegation are to have proposals, applications, and fees to the conference office by the posted deadlines, exceptional overall behavior of the delegation, participation in all scheduled events, representation on CLC, which that means that your CLC didn't sleep in sometimes, and no more than one proposal submitted on the same topic. I'm going to read the list of CLs of premier delegations and spirit fingers only, please. We'll go alphabetically, starting with Alabama, Arizona, California, Connecticut, Delaware, the District of Columbia, Kentucky, Louisiana, Massachusetts, Minnesota, Missouri, Model United Nations, New Mexico, New York, North Carolina, Ohio, Oklahoma, Pennsylvania, South Carolina, Tennessee, Texas, Washington, and Wisconsin. Join me in congratulating these premier delegations.
At this time, can I please have the CLC representatives stand up and be recognized? Next, we will have the Outstanding Statesman Awards by Tove Patterson.
Good evening. It is my pleasure to have chaired the committee for Outstanding Statesman again this year. I can say that I look out on a room of truly America's best and brightest. Regrettably, we can only recognize a few of you, so our committee was given the unenviable task of trying to whittle down from the cream of the crop who truly, truly rose to the top. I'd like to thank my committee members who watched every single one of you from the back of the committees, and were able to observe everyone speaking. It was a really tough year. But we were able to narrow it down to just a handful of you. So I will ask, as I name the recipients of the Outstanding Statesman Award, please come down. We have a certificate for you. Be recognized. Please no applause till the end, but spirit fingers are certainly encouraged. Your Outstanding Statesmen are Stephen Higgins, Henry Hamlet, Julia Kahn, Nicholas Gardner, Delaney Ivy, Mabel D'Souza, Destiny Garis, Jefferson Owens, Sarah Haney, Drake Brignac, Andy Flanagan, Maggie Isaacson, Mac Polson, Madeline Hatch, Nicholas Tharney, Ethan Wade, River Shields, A.G. Chancellor, John Ball, Ishmael Cody Harville, Raghavendra Pai, Manuel Sessignon, Evan Garber, Vishal Jindal, Sydney Heyer, Abdurrahman Al-Rani, Lauren Linus, Keelan Lewis, Anuj Makawara, Jeremy Nelson, and Molly Randall.
It's quite an honor in my life to be the director of this conference, and one of the reasons it is such an honor is that every summer we get to work with 6 outstanding servant leaders from across the country who were chosen the previous year to serve as your presiding officers at this conference. Each group is different. Each group comes with its own strengths, its weaknesses, things that it's passionate about. They have a lot of similar characteristics. And the groups that come have similar characteristics amongst each other. And this group has 3. Camaraderie is 1. They work together pretty darn well. And they have fun doing it. Exhibit A, right there. Camaraderie is very important. It's a privilege and an honor to work with people that you like working with, no matter what kind of project it is. Character. This group's got character. They are who they are. And they've lived it this week. Lastly, commitment. They have been committed this week to making this experience the best it can be for all of you in their leadership of this conference. And leadership at this conference means a lot of different things, some that you'll never hear about, never see. You saw them presiding up here at plenary. You saw them in General Assembly. Some of you, especially the chairs and clerks, saw them roving around during committees, answering questions, delivering ballots, pointing people to the bathroom, all kinds of fun things. But what you didn't see is what happened on Friday and Thursday night when we arrived, unloading boxes and all kinds of other things to get ready for this conference to help us as a very small conference staff. Doing those little things that put together make a successful conference, and it's a successful conference because it is life-changing for many of you. So as a group, please join me in giving them a warm round of applause. That's a little bit about them as a group. And this time I'm going to give them an opportunity to say a few final words and to announce their replacement as the next presiding officer for next year. But before we do that, we're going to do what it says on the schedule and tell you who the alternates were for next year. So I'm going to call on Ralph Shorty to come and make that presentation.
Don't hold that against Sam. This is only his 30th or so conference. Every year, our conference is led by an outstanding group of young men and women who exemplify the 4 core values of the YMCA, who lead through service and by example. Everyone here knows our presiding officers. Everyone here has reaped the benefit of these amazing young people in their service to you. And let me tell you, they're pretty darn amazing, aren't they? But what you don't know is how they got there. Every year on the mountain, there's a PO selection committee made up of a very diverse and well-respected group of adults who dedicate their time, their energy, their sleep, their sanity, and their Eureka Treat time to find the 6 POs and 6 alternates which will lead the conference for the next year. It is one of the great mysteries of our time to know how many serve on this committee, who they are, where they meet. But they are out there, always. I do wish that I could introduce them to you so you could thank them for the amazing work that they did this year. They have observed and vetted over 240 seniors. They did this on an individual level, both in committees and outside of committees. They have recorded nearly 2,000 individual observations, recorded observations. They've spent every waking moment getting to know you, and collectively have spent over 70 hours in deliberations trying to find the right people. We have gone over 200 Facebook accounts, 170 Twitter feeds. We have creeped on every one of you. But they have done this out of love and care for this conference and a desire to ensure that next year's participants will have the best experience possible. I have been honored to have served as the chair of this committee, and I would like, if you could, please give a round of applause to those anonymous, mysterious people out there. And now, ladies and gentlemen, it is my distinct honor to announce the 6 alternate presiding officers for next year's conference. We will go in reverse order. Your 6th alternate, hailing from the volunteer state of Tennessee, Mr. Simon Cooper. And come on down, Simon. Your 5th alternate, coming from the Old Dominion state of Virginia, Mr. Jeremy Nelson. Your 4th alternate, all the way from the Bay State of Massachusetts, Mr. Cameron Cabrera. Your 3rd alternate, coming from the first state of Delaware, Miss Mabel D'Souza. Your second alternate, hailing from the Great Lakes State, the state of Michigan, Mr. Xavier Cuevas. And finally, your first alternate, from the infamous District of Columbia, Barack Obama City, Miss Lauren Fangwin. Ladies and gentlemen, your alternate POs for next year.
All right. Now is it the right time? Okay. All right. Our first presiding officer from Missouri, Kate Hannick. Congratulations. Thanks for all your hard work. That's yours. I'll give you the other one when you need it.
Okay. Good evening, delegates. My first language is English. I grew up having English-speaking teachers, watching all my favorite TV shows in English, and reading English books. My culture promoted English and made it easy for me to get by speaking the language of the majority. That being said, there were limits placed on my abilities. I'm dyslexic, and that affected the way I operate within the bubble I lived in. When I was younger, I hid my disability the best I could and continued to operate in the English-speaking world, no questions asked. When I started high school, I began taking Mandarin Chinese. My Chinese teacher knew about my dyslexia, and one day she sent me an article that explained how Chinese is a character language and English is an alphabet one, so English speakers who have dyslexia cannot have dyslexia in Chinese. It has to do with how the different parts of your brain digest characters as opposed to letters. Now, don't get me wrong. Learning Chinese is not easy. I very intentionally practice Chinese. I use that part of my brain that I wasn't using before. It's tough. There have been times when I wanted to give up, go back to the comforts of English, times when I have worked so hard and saw absolutely no benefit. Got no gratification. However, with that second language, I am able to transcend the limitations that seem inevitable while operating in English. The world we live in is broken. It is full of sexism, racism, xenophobia, transphobia, homophobia, Islamophobia, war, discrimination, prejudice, and hate, and I could go on and on. That is our society's language. This is the bubble we live in. This is the learned language of hate that puts limitations on all of us, and it holds each and every one of us back. But by coming to this conference, you learn a second language, a love language. You will never look at injustice again without standing up for what is right. Your bubble has burst. The blinders we have worn that have allowed us to look past the hard, the messy, the taboo have been removed. The comforts that allow us to focus only on ourselves have been stripped away by the people and by the ideas at this conference. And because of it, you will be able to transcend the structures of this world that put down so many. And by doing this, you will bring about positive change for generations to come. And it will not be easy, and you might feel like giving in. You might just want to accept that the world we live in simply cannot be changed. You often won't be thanked for the positive change you create. You may give your all to what you're passionate about, and you may receive no recognition for all your work. Delegates, it is not easy, and that's exactly why it matters. Because easy is what got us here, and easy cannot lead us to where we need to go. Be intentional, purposeful, caring, and meaningful. It will matter. Go out in this world and make great doctors, congresswomen, stay-at-home dads, musicians, engineers, and business people. Whatever it is you decide to do, I ask you to keep challenging yourself to learn
this language of love and teach each other to do the same while you go out into a world that desperately needs you. Think about the progress we made this week, and think about what all you can do in a lifetime, speaking and teaching others a new love language. It's been an honor of a lifetime to serve you all at this conference. Thank you for reminding me what love looks like. And now comes the fun part. The first presiding officer of 2017 is a delegate I hold very fondly in my heart. This delegate exemplifies everything that is great about this conference: an eloquent speaker, a heart of gold, a fierce personality. From the dry heat state of Arizona, Natasha Menon. Girlfriend, you can sit over here. Yeah, you sit over here.
Mr. Hayworth of Texas.
In a moment, I'd like to talk about you guys. Because at the end of the day, I'd like to think that that's what I cared about most at this conference. But first, briefly, allow me the courtesy of saying thank you to the people who have meant the most to me and who allowed me the wonderful opportunity to interact with each of you this week, a week that I never thought in my wildest dreams I would get to be a part of. So thank you to my fellow POs, to the people who put me here, and to most of all, my God. And now to you. The gavel taps once, reminding us that time is running short. We sit here this evening at the edge of our conference closure, and soon our time here will run out entirely. As we enjoy the fire ceremony later tonight, we will be accompanied by the sound of the gavel tapping twice, ringing as the final seconds of our conference unravel. Undoubtedly, we are heavy with emotion, and if nothing else, we are tired. With the thought of leaving behind us our friends, new and old, we are burdened. After all, look around. Never again will this exact group be together. Not this group as a whole, nor as individual delegations. Never. But I ask you this: is that as terrible a fate as it seems? Or is there some beauty in it? Should we be wallowed up in a sense of loss going forward, dwelling on the days of the mountain, wishing that they would once again be so? Or should we choose to be enlightened in knowing that from here we go on to the future, to journeys unknown? Friends, we cannot go back to the past. So instead, let us go forward. From here, we go to our homes and our communities, strengthened by the touch of those who have been here with us this week. From here, we press ahead, running to those so desperately in need of the love and knowledge that we have gained from this experience, and it is up to us to give it to them. It is to you, delegates and friends, that are now charged with the future. It is to you that I charge the poor,
the weary, the lame, the tired, the broken, and the lost of this nation. To you do I charge the future of this great generation, as well as the protection of the idea that our love for one another must overshadow our differences so that once again we can rise up and stand united. To you do I charge with this burden, because this is the true burden of freedom, responsibility. I charge it to you because you are worthy to bear it. We as presiding officers are yielding to you our time with the challenge that you use it well, that you will speak with your actions first so that your impact may be everlasting. At this conference, we are all given the opportunity to stand side by side with giants whose shoulders, I pray, will lift up our generation to see farther than those before us while not forgetting from whence we came. Stand, delegates, and see the dawning of tomorrow. This conference is at a close, and we now have the opportunity to take all that we've been given and all that we have learned and give it to a world that is hurting now more than ever before. Come with us on this journey. Take up the mantle alongside us, because if it's not us, then who? Will you be on the front lines with us as we charge straight ahead, regardless of personal sacrifice, purely so that others may see the love that we have been shown and may experience the same goodness and care that we have? I beg of you, lift up your heads and hang them no more, for the end of this conference is the beginning of something beautiful. Look to the future and see that it is waiting for us, and go into that future, delegates. And remember this place, but do not long for it. Instead, long for the ability to change that future into a place as bright and beautiful as this one. As we finish the night, the two taps of the gavel will surely remain heavy on our hearts, reminding us that our time is in fact running out on this mountain. But delegates, this conference is only our opening statement, and the world awaits you, anxious to see what you will do next. Thank you. It's now my turn to get to pass on a mantle to one of our most outstanding delegates. A delegate who has shown exemplary leadership in her delegation and in those that she has led at this conference. She is also a little bit famous for a certain promposal that she did with John Kasich. Please welcome Julia Kahn, your next presiding officer.
Now let's make sure we get something straight. Julia didn't ask John Kasich to the prom. It was something a little different. Our next presiding officer, Gabrielle Donahoe.
Thank you.
Empathy originally stems from the Greek word empatheia, which can essentially be translated as traveling into another individual's feelings. Within the medical community, empathy is a crucial aspect of doctor-patient interactions. Traditional definitions of empathy typically describe such an event as understanding the feelings and emotions of another person. I am not a big fan of these definitions. They force the concept of empathy to become less dimensional and more restricting. First, I would like to preface by saying that I've always had a passion for both science and policy. I often am questioned as to why I spent so much time in a youth program focused on government instead of being focused on something that would be more applicable to the career that I want to pursue, becoming a doctor. The truth is that along with all of the delegates that have had the beautiful opportunity to participate in this program, I know that CONA is so much more than an instrument for debate. My time in this program, especially my time at this conference, has helped me to write my own definition of empathy. As delegates at this conference, we are encouraged to be curious. Initially, we are asked what inspires us. In our respective states, we practice asking each other non-debatable technical questions in preparation for the many questions we're going to hear on the mountain. And once we arrive on the mountain, we are forced to ask bigger questions, deeper questions. What do you value? Where do you stand on certain issues? How do you relate to others? I think this last question is the question that resonates with me the most. How do you relate to others? This is where empathy comes into play. The problem with the traditional definition of empathy is that it assumes that one individual can unquestionably understand the feelings and emotions of the other. I think that empathy is not so clear-cut. I think that empathy runs like water causing ink to bleed across a paper. The edges are blurry, which forces us to define empathy in a new light, one appropriate for the 21st century. To me, empathy is not and should not be about unquestionably understanding the feelings and emotions of another. Instead, the definition should reflect the universal truth that we, as humans, are inherently different. And for good reason. How boring life would be if we all shared the same influences, beliefs, ideals that shaped our feelings and emotions. It is these differences that are our primary reason for attending this conference. CONA teaches all delegates to find solace in our differences, to accept the idea that we are special because of them, and to learn from one another's specialties to make real change happen both on and off the mountain. Empathy should instead reflect the idea that because I am female, I have notably different experiences than a male, and the list goes on. Experiences are the only means by which a person can honestly claim that they understand, and without those experiences, understanding is falsified to become a blanket statement. Empathy can still exist with our differences. In fact, I believe it can flourish. Empathy is a means of affirming, I can respect the fact that we have inherently different experiences. It's not a means of feeling another individual's emotions, feelings, or pain. It removes dishonesty and replaces it with a sense of compassion, kindness, and respect. Redefining empathy in terms of differences is a means of illustrating the beauty of this program and this country. As a program, we are a representation of the numerous ideals, beliefs, and values held by our respective states. I like to think of the United States as an extension of this, a unified front of differences. As we start to begin our journeys off the mountain, it is imperative to keep in mind that empathy is not an idea that exists solely at CONA. Empathy is a crucial aspect of functional society, and you now have the opportunity to spread the importance of compassion, kindness, and mutual respect. This conference lasts for a week, but for good reason. It would be selfish of any of you to remain here instead of returning home to your respective states. You have had an incredible opportunity to learn the importance of practicing empathy, even if you were unaware of doing it. Empathy is asking the hard questions you may already know the answers to. It's being a friend, being a listener, and being a proponent of change in response to these actions. Caring for others is not limited to doctors. It's not limited to a certain group of people or reserved for certain individuals. We seek empathy, both for ourselves and others, because there is comfort in sharing pain. We find solace in the idea that we are not alone. This week, you have learned of one another's hesitations, sorrows, and most importantly, hopes for the future. This conference has helped to shed light on our differences, illustrating the harmony that exists between all delegates. The similarity we share, the similarity that we must take home with us, is that each of us has been charged with practicing and teaching the importance of empathy to those who are not lucky enough to attend this conference.
It has been the greatest honor and pleasure to serve you this week. Thank you all from the bottom of my heart for teaching me to love my differences, to care for others, and to build relationships that will last a lifetime. Thank you. I now have the distinct honor and privilege of introducing your next presiding officer, who is sweet as can be. I was able to have the pleasure and honor of interacting with this delegate over the past few years on the mountain, and their love for the program, and especially and almost more importantly its delegates, is both beautiful to observe and humbling to be a part of. From the jazzy state of Louisiana, please join me in congratulating Andy Flanagan. So you sit in the front.
From the Sunshine State, Mr. Harrison Satcher. Thank you for your leadership. Great job.
What comes next? Where do we go from here? Literally, and more importantly, figuratively, we find ourselves atop a mountain, with the view of nearby summits outlining the evening sky, with the ability to see far and wide from our altitude, with what seems like the whole world laid out in front of us. Yet, where is there to go once you've reached the summit? There is no further for us to climb here. There is no more to see, east or west. We cannot stay at this altitude if we go north or south, and we certainly cannot stay still, because time is pushing us on, ever away from where we would like to stand and remain. So we must return to the valley from which we came. But while the valley is much the same, we are different. We carry with us the view from atop the mountain, the knowledge that view provides, the empowering presence of that memory is instilled in our heart. There is pain in the descent, surely, the beginnings of which many of us can already feel. There's a certain ache in the goodbye that comes when the holy host of others standing around you disperses. And we want nothing more to put that off for another day. But our rainbow day is done, and the world needs us apart. And so as you make this descent to this world in need, to this world waiting for you, as you descend to hometowns and families, to old friends and old problems, as you make this descent, carry with you today and this week. Carry with you the friends you've made, the lessons you've learned, the things you've felt. Carry these with you, and that would be enough. From this moment on, you define your future. Shape it in a way that makes you feel as you feel right now, like you never want to let it go. Shape it in a way that makes you whole. Because if money alone could fill the pains of inadequacy, if fame could quench the desires of the heart, if perfection could leave us satisfied, then yes, we should pursue these things. We should forfeit what we have and who we are for them. But this is not the world we live in. The world we live in is one in which the only way to these things is through compassion, through genuine, open-hearted service to your fellow men and women. Service that some of you experienced this week. Service that some of you performed this week. Service that devotes you fully to those behind, beneath, or otherwise in need of you. You have each proven your gifts here. your ability to move others with your words, your ability to lead with passion and vigor, your ability to invest yourself in a cause greater than you. And so, it is now your responsibility to apply these gifts for the betterment of those who need them the most. You represent the future of this program and of our great nation. In you lie all our hopes. Guard them well. History has its eyes on you. So one last time, delegate, make haste. You're running out of time. I can stand here and say that my single regret of this week was not spending more time talking to this delegate. I met him just this week, you see, as a member of the CLC. But within our first conversation, I could tell he was an epitome of the Blue Ridge spirit. And as the week progressed, he became a beacon of integrity and courage. It is my pleasure to announce your next presiding officer from the Great Lakes State, Parker Bunton. Join your team.
From the state of New Jersey and the Model United Nations program, Ankita Satpathy.
When I was at my first YMCA officers retreat, a member of program staff said that we probably didn't quite understand what the civic engagement programs were about yet. But that one day, we'd walk across the stage, look out at the delegates, and we'd just get it. 10 months later, YMUN 2014 adjourned, and I told him, "You're right, I do." As I traveled to the mountain this week, I started to recall different moments that had led up to it. So I made this list of all the different times that I felt like I got it. I stopped when I got to 32, mostly because the flight landed, but just think about that for a moment. Of those 32 moments, 26 of them involved different people. That's 26 different people that made me believe so wholeheartedly in these programs that I learned to expect that I would prove myself wrong every single time I started to think that they couldn't impress me more. I'll admit that I've had an extraordinarily fortunate YMCA career, and maybe not all of you are lucky enough to have had 32 moments or 26 people. But if all the delegates, officers, and staff members of this conference have had just one, that's 770 times that someone felt so moved by what these programs do for people that they were genuinely inspired to serve and to live by the core values that we always talk about. And we are all one of hundreds of thousands of people that have done youth in government. The enormity of that impact is overwhelmingly motivating. Since the time I walked across that stage and got it, my eyes have been open to a lot. Believe it or not, these programs are not perfect. Your youth in government experience probably will not be perfect. But why should it be? When something is perfect, there's no room for growth, And that is what these programs are about. I hope that along with your tears of joy, you have cried tears of frustration or disillusionment, because those are the experiences that you will grow from. The programs might not be perfect, but every time you make someone feel like they get it, you take them one step closer to perfect. The world is not perfect, but every time you craft a solution with skill, intelligence, and passion, you take it one step closer to perfect. And that is why, as I stand on this stage and look at these delegates, I can honestly say, yeah, I get it. A couple nights ago, I spoke about the Blue Ridge Spirit and where you should look if you hadn't yet found it. Well, if you still think you haven't found it, look no further than yourself. When the CONA intent speaker exits the chamber to congratulate the proposal author, you are the Blue Ridge Spirit. When you wake up early and freezing to silently sit on the porch and look at the mountains with the people you care about, you are the Blue Ridge Spirit. When every hand in the room goes up to support the speaker with spirit fingers, delegates, you are the Blue Ridge Spirit. It matters to us, it unites us, and it will guide us to accomplish great things. The motion before the Conference on National Affairs is that you take the Blue Ridge Spirit with you and that you use it to improve our world. By participating in this week, it has already been made, seconded, and carried. Now all you have to do is stand together and ensure its success. Thank you for the honor of serving you this week. It is now my absolute honor and pleasure to introduce your next presiding officer. Your next presiding officer is easily one of the most accomplished people I have ever met. But far more importantly, they are also one of the kindest and a genuine, passionate servant leader. I could not be more excited to introduce your next presiding officer from the state of Ohio, John Ball.
Where do I,
From Oklahoma, Mr. Luke Davis. Thank you. Thanks for your leadership.
I tell you to look out and just take it all in. You take a breath, and then you're ready to go. That's how you give a speech, according to a lot of advisors. Looking out at you guys, I'm lost for words. I have a speech here, and I'm lost for words. Before I begin, I'd just like to say thank you. Before I begin, I have to thank you. First off, thanks are in order, other than thanking you just now. My first thank you goes to my God, my faithful, faithful God. This week, we spend so much time sharing beliefs and ideas, and I think that is arguably the most beautiful thing about being at Conference on National Affairs. And now I have to share with you one of my beliefs, that there is a God. It may be yours, it may be mine, but I believe there is a God who is loving beyond belief, who wants you to love him too. Secondly, I'd like to thank my parents who are at home watching. Love you, Mom. You gotta say that. But then I also have to thank two very special people who have invested in me beyond my thanks can go. Ralph Shorty and Whitney Chandler have constantly poured into my life and refined me to be the leader that I am today. And it's one of those things where I can look back and say I'm proud of where I am now because of what you guys have done for me. So thank you. Delegates, I really don't have anything profound for you. In fact, as you all well know, what you see is what you get with this presiding officer. However, I do have a little more advice for you. If you recall, at the beginning of the conference, I offered you some advice that my past state director gave me 4 years ago. Plan your work and work your plan. Before you leave tonight, I'd like to give you a little more advice to chew on before you leave this sacred place. Delegates, as my fellow presiding officer Kate Hannock likes to say, we have so much left to do. Just because we leave the mountain this week, just because we are finished with committees, just because you have to go home does not mean that we are done. We have so much work to do. And while it may be overwhelming at times to think about all the things that we need to do when we go back home and into our world, consider this, the words of Marianne Williamson. Our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us. Each of you, each and every single one of you, is an agent for change, and I truly believe that. I think this poem by Tecumseh sums up my feeling about going into the world, and I'd like to read it over you. So live your life that the fear of death can never enter your heart. Trouble no one about their religion, respect others in their views, and demand they respect yours. Love your life, perfect your life, beautify all things in your life. Seek to make your life long and in the service of your people. Prepare a noble song for the day you go over the Great Divide. Always give a word or a sign of salute when meeting or passing a friend, even a stranger in a lonely place. Show respect to all and grovel to none. When you arise in the morning, give thanks for the food and for the joy of living. If you see no reason for giving thanks, the fault lies only in yourself. When it comes your time to go, be not like those whose hearts are filled with the fear of death, so that when their time comes, they weep and they pray for a little more time to live their lives over in a different way. Sing your song and go like a hero heading home. Delegates, you will never be able to completely plan your lives. Continue to work anyway. Thank you, delegates, for this week. You know, I could actually talk for days about this delegate, but Sam has that hook back there and he will pull me off. So I'll try to keep it brief. I've known this delegate for a long time. My first year on the mountain, I wondered about the success he would have. He's one of my favorite people because he is one of the most genuine people I have ever met. Many of you know him. I think he raps better than he speaks sometimes. My fellow Oklahoman, Raghavendra Pai. All right, just one closing announcement. The closing assembly will begin at 9:45 here in Heaton Hall. Flag bearers should sit in the back of the auditorium so that they can leave after the slideshow. We as POs will now hear a motion from the floor from a delegate who has not spoken throughout the conference yet to adjourn this session. Let's hear from the back. What is the nature of the motion? There is a motion on the floor to adjourn. Is there a second? We'll now move to vote. All those in favor of adjourning this 49th Conference on National Affairs, ayes. And all those opposed, say nay. Division is heard and not recognized. This Conference on National Affairs is adjourned.